Hi everybody, good afternoon. As you can hear, yes, I am in Singapore, but from my accent, I do originate from the UK. I'm a North London girl. I've just been here in Asia for about 15 years now, so forgive me if my accent's a bit funny at times. So what do I do? So I basically head up talent and culture for the Greater Asia region at BD. We have about 10,000 associates in my region that span from Australia all the way through to India. Okay. If there's anybody here that's a bit less familiar with BD, we're actually one of the largest global medical technology companies in the world. We develop and manufacture devices, diagnostics, and solutions that advance both clinical outcomes and global health. And this means in Asia, I have manufacturing, I have commercial folks, I have R&D, I have shared service centers. So I've kind of got employees that span across all walks of life, all types of functions and expertise here underneath us that I support. Big shout out to the 5 Minutes team. I'm really excited to share today a little bit more with you guys in terms of how we've partnered together to make a brand new manager leadership program that we've just wrapping up the pilot on at the moment. And we've had some really great results so far. So happy to share with you my learnings, what went wrong, what's gone well, and anything else that you might like to know that maybe is going to inspire how you guys evolve as HR practitioners, your local learning programs. So
Yeah,
that's it from me.
absolutely. So Georgia has a very interesting story of how she first came across us. So before you came to us in your leadership training capacity, what were you doing with 5 minutes before? How did you first come across us?
So I was actually, I came across you guys as a learner. So I first discovered you by being on the other side of the fence as such. One of my HR colleagues at BD, he was tasked with a kind of global upskilling of HR practitioners across the world. Apparently, we all need to get better at change management. Who knew? So he actually reached out to 5 Mins, got ourselves like a very, I think it was about 3 week, 4 week program with you guys. And I actually was given that as a learner. And I'll be honest with you, in the beginning, at the beginning, I didn't engage with it so much, right? I don't know. It was, one of these global initiatives. It came down. I didn't engage with it very much. And then I kept getting all these annoying notifications. And eventually I gave in, started to play with the platform, started to, get involved. And what I actually found is that during my morning commute to work, I found 10, 15 minutes where I could actually sit and start to digest the content. And once I found the hack, it started to become a habit. And so from there, I got really immersed, got in the rhythm of it, and started to enjoy the platform a great deal. So much so that as soon as I had the opportunity to create something, you were the first people that I called. So,
Oh, that's so wonderful to hear that our annoying notifications turned you from
yes.
a champion. So that's brilliant. Thank you for giving us a chance. And I think, Georgia, from the last program we ran with BD, you were actually one of the top learners. So round
Oh,
of applause for Georgia as
thank
a
you.
learner
Thank
and
you.
then also as a training manager as well. Okay, brilliant. So, Georgia, you mentioned you came to us for a program that you wanted to design. Would you mind telling us a bit more about what you were trying to achieve with this new manager program?
Yeah, definitely. So just for everybody that's interested, we've built this 8 week, 7 module program, and it's targeted for, like, let's say you're an individual contributor and you've just been promoted to a manager. So an internal person just been promoted for their very first time to people management responsibilities at BD. Or you've joined us, we've recently recruited you and you've come from another organization. Maybe you were a manager there, but you're joining us as a manager. Okay, so it's targeted kind of as an onboarding, but it's also not just onboarding, it's also at least laying down some absolutely fundamental management skills. Because as everybody on this call probably knows, right, some managers are going to come in with a toolbox full of great leadership skills, and others, I don't know what they were teaching them elsewhere, right? So I want to make sure that I kind of lay down a foundation For managers, I want them to be able to speak the BD lingo, okay? And I want them to be able to understand, even if they've been an internal person with us for 5 years, when you become a manager, you've got new platforms, new responsibilities, new processes, a whole suite of things that you have to do differently. And so I want people to be fully versed in that as quick as possible. So that's sort of the program that we designed.
Sorry, Ilham,
Sorry, classic. So I know that when we were designing the program, there were certain things that we really need to think about and really tailor to BD's environment and how BD works. So one was the scale, so making sure this is a scalable program. So how many managers do you promote each year?
Probably about between 200, it could be between 150 to 300 year on year.
Yeah.
Okay, kind of varies in different peaks. And I think that the challenge is there with all recruitment as well as promotions, no year looks the same, right? Like sometimes you have higher attrition than others and you don't know where that attrition is going to hit. So it's very variable. And what I have is, as I described, I've got this really large region, but I've got some countries like China where I've got thousands of employees, and I've got other countries like Thailand where I have less than 100. So I've got this sort of patchwork quilt of countries that have different volumes of employees. Therefore, like say in Thailand, maybe you might get a maximum of 2 new managers in a year. In China, I've got at least 4 or 5 a month, right? So I've got completely varying degrees of new managers coming into the system. I have language challenges. I've got multiple languages across the region, as well as, really needing to be able to ensure that we have a consistency. So what's happening at the moment is that the local HR business partners in each of these countries are responsible for all of the onboarding. I can't track that. I can't measure that. I can't see the impact of that. I don't know what they're getting trained on, right? And also it's really hard for the HRBPs because as I said, if you're that person in Thailand and you've got 2 a year, right? You're not that well versed. It's not sort of a consistent thing that you're delivering. So what we decided to do was bring it into the region because I did some modeling and I looked at, okay, roughly every quarter, how many managers, whether it's 10 in Australia and 2 in Thailand or however many it is, on average, how could I reach that number of about 25 for a cohort? And it looks like every 8 to 12 weeks, if I consistently run a training program, I'll be able to capture all new managers. So in order to kind of tackle that scalability, that consistency, we decided to bring it into the region and start to run it from here, like trains on a track, right? So we plan to develop something that can just run really easily, very easy to self-administer, very minimal requirements and burden on leadership. And that's sort of, these were the things that we had in mind. And I think the biggest thing about AI that I've noticed where I am in the world with so many non-English speakers is that with AI, I remember for a program, we used to pay like $30,000-$40,000 to get stuff translated for them. Now, with anything that's AI enabled, we're able to put subtitles on things, we're able to get avatars and language and all sorts of stuff happening. So that's been one of the biggest things. I really wanted to make a modern learning program that people could learn in local language as best as they could. And I also wanted them to have a modern learning experience, like, what you guys said, you're the TikTok of learning. People don't have the attention span anymore. So I wanted something that was kind of like fast, digestible, especially if you think about a new manager, right? They're coming in, they're getting this information download. So I wanted to be able to get that critical content in like a very easy, very addictive, digestible way. And so these were some of the problems that I had in my brain, and we came to you guys and we were able to solve it.
Georgia, just to wrap this up,
Yes.
there's so many challenges. So what was
Yes.
the main challenge that the traditional leadership training was not working for you guys, and why it's working with micro learning?
Microlearning, yeah. I guess sort of what I was saying about a lot of burden on local HR business partners or hiring managers of these managers to do all of the knowledge transfer. And as I said, I couldn't track it. So I don't know, you might be a manager that has a great manager that does an amazing experience, spends heaps of time with you, sharing with you the sites, what to do, how to do it. And you might be sitting somewhere else in my region and have a terrible manager and you'll have a nightmare, So I wanted to get rid of that. I wanted to create a consistency and I wanted something that was easy, as I said. So the traditional learning where you'd bring people into a classroom or the boring click e-learning where it's not engaging, that just wasn't working. We weren't getting good feedback from that, right? And again, I would say what I loved is that at BD, we're a big multinational, right? So I have quite a lot of custom content that I have for BD. Like I need them to learn about the language, workday, the processes, but I also wanted them, that's kind of dry, right? So the beautiful thing about 5 minutes is that we've created these playlists. I don't know, Ilham, if you've got my slide on the 8 weeks, based
Yeah.
on the topics, we've basically got my boring content wrapped around exciting content. What I mean by exciting content is that you were able to offer me like this already pre-built library of like the Simon Sinek's and all these like leadership gurus that have really good content, right? There's all these YouTube creators out there where they've already made it for free. And we were able to sort of package and curate my boring content around the good content to sort of like keep them on the hook. And that was one of the other things that I loved the most about it.
Yeah, and just to follow up, before you created all of that content, did
Yeah.
you use AI to identify any capability gaps for your leadership team?
And I admit something to everybody. I did start with Copilot and say, like, what's everything a manager needs to know? So the entire framework that you see here, like all the 8 weeks, like what are the main capabilities that a manager needs to know, right? So things like when you become a manager, one of the biggest things that people report, there's studies on it, is that going from me to we, so learning how to do time management, how to prioritize your own personal productivity is one of the biggest things that first-time managers fail on. And so I used AI just myself to help me research and figure out, okay, what is the absolute critical content that I need to cover in terms of A to Z, what a manager needs to know.
Mhm.
Then what I did is that I spoke with Ilham, and she's been my sort of partner the whole way. And she was telling me about what other customers have done. So she said to me, look, Georgia, you're going wild here. No one's going to sit and listen to an hour of content a week. So she said in her studies, 5 minutes, you guys are the experts, right? It's like 10 to 15 minutes tops. So we cut it down, we watched every video, and we managed to basically curate exactly what we needed to do. So it was a mixture of like me researching with AI, me pressure testing that content with my business and focus groups with managers, and then coming to you guys as the experts to figure out, okay, now how do I make this into a real comprehensive playlist, basically?
Perfect.
So we came up with the idea of putting it into a week by week format. And what we're doing is that we're drip feeding the content every week. So they don't come in and complete all 7 weeks in one go. We're kind of like drip feeding it so that we can keep them engaged week to week and we keep it digestible and easy.
And how
Yeah.
long was the week, for example, how much of their
Yeah.
time they need to spend in that week?
Yeah.
Well, Ilham told me no more than 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, so we work on a very consultative basis. So Georgia came up with the pillars, we added to it depending on what we've seen is successful. And then we found like, hey, let's do a mix of content. So we've got quizzes, we've got situational tests, and we've got lessons as well. And
Yeah.
it came to about, I think max is 33 minutes across all our weeks. And there's loads of different topics in it as well. So, Georgia, I actually want to know, so how did the
Yeah.
managers first respond when we launched this program?
So I also just because I saw one question pop up in the Q&A, I want to let everybody know that the whole program is not all on 5 minutes AI. So 5 minutes AI for me creates the backbone of all the knowledge transfer. So they can get the new knowledge through this really interactive, fun way. But in the entire 8 week journey, every 2 weeks, I bring together the cohort to do a live, deep dive 90-minute webinar with me. So I go deep on things like situational leadership, like giving feedback capabilities, like what else is important to us, knowing how to write a development plan for your associate. So there's certain topics that mean a lot to me at BD that our associates must be able to do. And so rather than just everything coming on 5 minutes, I then every 2 weeks, I bring the cohort together live so that we can go deep, we can have social learning, we can have discussions, I can do breakout rooms. And that's where I get them to actually apply and think more deeply about what it is. So with the knowledge from 5 minutes and then those every other week live human interactions, I'm able to kind of blend the best of both worlds.
Yeah. So we call
So
this the
just
classroom approach, where they do the training of the concepts online on 5 minutes. They come to the session with the knowledge, and then after the session, there's a recap, there's something that they can tap into later, and it consolidates all the knowledge in one place as well. But then you're there for the helping hand to guide them through the actual concepts and application of it all. But the knowledge starts with 5 minutes, and it also forms the spine of the program as well. So, Georgia, what behavioral changes or wins did you see when you implemented this? Any anecdotes you can share?
also
Oh,
do
Georgia, your
is it
audio.
going-
Oh, here.
back again, yeah.
Yeah, back again.
So something, if you remember my story, how I got started, it was the pressure, it was the notifications, it was everything, right? So I knew that getting everybody off the starting block, because it was something I personally struggled with, right? Once you're off the starting block, it actually becomes quite addictive. But getting a new habit, we all know is hard. So we created this, like, we leveraged the analytics that we get from your platform. So I already knew from week one, I was able to monitor who's logging on, who wasn't logging on. And after I did the kickoff, I noticed that maybe we had about 20% of people had logged on, and the majority still hadn't even gone into the platform. So I worked sort of tirelessly to basically do a bit of chasing in the beginning, making sure there was no IT issues, there was no VPN issues, there was no whitelisting issues, cleaned up all the technical stuff, got everybody registered. And then every week I have been creating this leaderboard where people can see who's in the top 3 spots and people can clearly kind of a bit of a name and shame. Okay, I don't really use the stick. I don't really massively call out those at the bottom, but I hyper celebrate those at the top. And I CC in all the managers and I've got rewards and stuff. So I'm trying to do this thing where I make it stick. So when you ask me the question about behavior, I think the beginning of the program, the behavior is how do we just get them to start using it? How do we get them to start enjoying it? But now I'm at the end. And I would say the biggest thing that has struck me, which I don't even feel like I realized when I designed this, right? Because I designed this 15 minutes of learning that's mandatory. But once your learner is on the platform, the AI algorithm will start to make suggestions to the learner about all other topics that they may be interested in. So for example, I've got like marketeers as part of my cohort, and I noticed that why are these guys getting so many jewels? So I said to Ilham, I said, Ilham, what are jewels? She said, Georgia, it's when they go above and beyond, they get more and more jewels for learning outside of the core content. So you saw that, I genuinely have learners now that are spending not 15 minutes, but hours of personal learning where they're then going outside of my content. They're learning about their communication skills, how to influence, how to be increasing their marketing capabilities. And I would say that was like the biggest behavioral change. First was pushing them, and now the platform itself is pulling them with all the suggested other contents, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going off track, but
No, that's all right. Georgia, I've got a couple of questions from the audience
yes.
as well. So are you using 5 minutes platform for translation of video content, or do you have another platform that you use?
Yeah, I can answer this one. So we embed with Synthesia. So Georgia has made the different content, BD content in the different languages, and then we just plug it in here. We have the completion rates. But what we do is we go a step further. So if I show you a Korean or Mandarin playlist, for example, we have
Yeah,
assessments in those languages to make it very recognizable for them. We've got captions as well inside the different like playlists that show them in Korean what's going on, what are they saying. But for example, here, where we've done a DIS style assessment, we've done one in English, and we've also done one in Korean, in Mandarin, and in Japanese as well.
Japanese.
So all of this,
Yeah.
their own language. So we're able to localize this for the different cultural contexts and make sure that they're not missing anything in translation.
Mm.
Yes. One another question, sorry, Ilham or Georgia. Georgia, you already kind of answered that, but I just want to make sure we do it again.
Yeah.
How do you ensure they're doing it, applying it? Is there follow-up? So you mentioned that you were chasing it, but is there anything else that you would like to?
I think because I have that human element, right? So there's the emails, but there's also the soft touch that comes from, like, tomorrow, for example, I have another live session. We're going to do a whole 90 minutes on mastering difficult conversations, getting people over that fear of sometimes tough love, and and during that, I seek feedback from the learners. I hear about what they're enjoying. I get them excited about what's coming next week for them. So I kind of do a mixture of that more human sort of side of things as well. And then in terms of the application, as I said, it's not just video content. We're also doing quizzes, games. So for example, for time and product management, Ilham and I, we designed an Eisenhower basket simulation from scratch. So we're actually gamifying their ability to prioritize and do things. So just another cute example of things that I never thought when I first started my partnership what would be able to do, but then I soon discovered through things that there's a lot more possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
There's
we've got games to apply what they've learned,
Yeah,
we've got situational tests, we've
yeah.
got distal assessments. So we're putting into application what we're learning straight away through the platform and through the live sessions that Georgia is doing as well. And Georgia, you had a very, really nice stories about the participants. So one was the Korean team. I'd love for you to share that with the audience. What did you see?
Yeah. So when I sent the board out to everybody, honestly, like, even though we've done so much work to translate, to make it as accessible as possible for everybody, my experience being a regional learning leader is that people that are in those remote places, English is the second language, honestly, you expect the engagement to be pretty low. But when I published the leaderboard this week, my 5 Korean learners are all in the top 10 of the learners, and 3 of them are in the top 5. And so when I actually sent the leaderboard, the HR director was in copy. She noticed all her cohort are basically like top of the list. And then she's then forwarded it on to the president of Korea. And not the president, the president of BD Korea. I wouldn't say it's that exciting. It's gone up to the president of BD Korea, and it's kind of like grown legs. It's organically, people are celebrating and people are really proud. So
Yeah.
I'm really
And
proud of
Georgia,
the Korean team. Yeah.
yeah, go Korea.
Go Korea,
So,
yeah.
Georgia, how in your 15 years, in
Mm,
your expertise and in your field, you would never imagine Korea being at the top of the leaderboard.
never.
But through 5 minutes, through what we've built, through the
Yeah.
interactivity element, you now see Korea as #1 on the leaderboard, which is an insane, insane thing for the Korean
Yeah.
participants and for your own hard work as well, Georgia.
Thank you for both our hard work.
Georgia,
Amazing.
one more question.
I
Yes,
just want to some light on the platform itself, just to bring it a bit more to life. So, for example, Georgia said one of the surprises was that people went beyond the mandatory training. So they went beyond the 8 weeks. And now I wanted to share some crazy statistics. So we've got 55 participants. They spent 88 hours of learning on people management in just the past month. So that just goes to show how engaging, how quick, how fast the learning is that
Mm,
people 5 people have spent 88 hours on people management. They've spent 65 hours on time management. These stats are crazy. If you compare to any other learning platform, I'd like to see if 55 people in your company have spent 88 hours on people management in anything else. So this is a huge feat, and I just wanted to shed light on that. But yeah, Maddie, back to your question.
Yeah, I've got 1 minute, so
Yeah.
so is there opportunity to apply the learning into the workflow? So obviously we were talking about managers being super busy. Do you have any comments there?
I guess like do you know what? After this all finished, I'm gonna ask learners where did they learn? Because my anecdote, I did it in the car on the way to work, right? I was in the back of a taxi. I'm curious, did people do it at night? Did they do it in the morning? I actually don't know the habits of my learners. But great question. If I find out more, I'll let you know. What the behaviors are. I don't know. I don't know when and where they're using it. I just know, as you said, they're spending an awful amount of time on the platform. So
Yeah, so I can shed light on that from Kelly's question. We did a huge program with HP recently. They found
yeah.
that the learners were learning on their desktop during lunchtime the most, and the second
Oh,
most was in the evening on their mobile phones. So, Georgia, we can tap into those stats for BD as well, but that's our 2 takeaways.
yeah. Have we answered all the Q&A? I know a lot of people have been listening to me talk, so just
No,
want
no,
to
no,
answer
but
any questions.
I'm a bit of conscious of time because we're out of
Mm,
time right now. I just shared, Georgia, your LinkedIn profile. So if you guys have
yes.
any other questions, please click on the link in the chat box and you can directly ask her about the program and about
Yeah.
her the whole program itself and her experience with 5 minutes. And if you've got any questions to us, please feel free to submit any feedback. Thank you so much again for joining. Georgia, thank you so much for your time. Ilham, thank you so much for doing this. Have a lovely day and see you next month.